Welcome to our presentation on creating digital experiences using a user-centered process. Today I have with me Kate Stoll, the product owner of MEM's engagement team. Kate and I share a passion for what I call design-led development. It combines techniques from design thinking, business models, innovation, and agile to design and develop applications that users really want to engage with. So why is good user experience vital to digital insurance experiences? Well, there are some stunning numbers around the cost of bad user experience. Lost sales is honestly just one of them. Did you know 45% of users give up if registration is hard or perceived as a hurdle? Customer and IT support go up dramatically when your users have poor user experience. People get stuck, they call, they might or might not get help, and perhaps another customer was lost. On the flip side, studies from, for example, McKinsey and IBM have shown that there's a huge upside to good design and user experience. Not only does it increase sales, sometimes up to 87%, but it makes customers come back, which is of course key to insurance, where we want customers to renew their policy, hopefully effortlessly. Spending time on user experience before the software development lifecycle starts actually makes good sense. So what is the recipe for success? As I mentioned earlier, a design-led development approach. Perhaps you saw our March Connections presentation. Let me walk you through, though, some of the key phases. First, you identify the end users and the problem space. What do the users need? What pain points do they have? What motivates them? You define the end user needs you want to address with your application, often as a reimagined business process. And then you define how the user experience might look and feel like. Ideally test it with the intended user, and then begin development. So it's also important to point out this is a team sport between designers, subject matter experts, developers, all working closely together, as we will see in our following case study. Kate, welcome, and thank you for sharing MEM's digital experience journey with us. So when you and I first met, we immediately connected around a design-led approach to great digital experiences. So give us some background on the MEM customer and agent portal implementation.
Thanks for having me, Andrea. I'm honored to be with you all today. First, just a little bit about Missouri Employers Mutual, or MEM. MEM is the #1 work comp carrier in Missouri with 25 years of keeping workers safe. Recently, the company expanded to 7 additional states with provider insurance. For our portal implementation, we accepted an early version of Producer Engage 11.1. Customer Engage hadn't come out yet, and we are currently upgrading both platforms to 11.3. With this case study, we'll focus on our recent portal implementation. But first, some history. MEM realized the need to understand our customers on a deeper level and embarked on mapping our customer journey in 2018. Through that process, we knew we had some work to do improving their experiences with us digitally. By allowing the end customer, our policyholders and agents, to be the center of our design process, we were able to release a new portal with Guidewire in 2020. We continue to make iterative improvements, still with user feedback and research that continue to make positive impacts.
Yes, I do remember that we packaged the new Producer Engage code up for you right around December 2019. I love actually that you took the time to deeply understand your users long before the IT or development project started. So how did you discover what your users were struggling with and what they really wanted to have from this new solution?
We took an inside-out approach to discover where we needed to focus, and then we shifted to get an outside-in point of view. To gain a better understanding of what the business needed, we started by talking to our own staff, conducting an in-depth focus group with leadership and other subject matter experts. We mapped customer touch points throughout every process in key departments. In that session, we also outlined what we believe to be the most important interactions our customers had with us, and we evaluated and valued the services we provided our customers, knowing that we had a 20-year-old homegrown portal that was no longer meeting the customer needs in terms of aesthetic, ease of use, or efficiency.
Great. Can you explain how you went about understanding what users required from this new solution?
Yeah, we received qualitative feedback from agents and customers in focus groups, which we conducted concurrently with our requirements building and some back-end development. Each focus group centered around a particular activity one might engage in the portal. And we also obtained quantitative survey data, both satisfaction surveys and specific digital interaction surveys. We asked participants in our focus group to rank the importance of specific areas such as safety or billing to help us determine where to focus our time and development efforts. While some users valued the same things for one digital process, others expected to use certain features differently based on their personas. Later, we compared what we thought we knew about our customers and producers from the inside looking out to the perception of the company's digital interactions that they shared with us directly. In other words, we lacked internal focus, and this research helped us gain clarity. What we learned helped us define the most valuable pieces of our portal implementation. In general, we learned that we must improve information access, accuracy, and ease of doing business.
Thank you for sharing, Kate. So let me recap. You did research for both target users, the customer and the agent. It's actually great to see how you used a combination of what we call research methods to dig deeply into needs, motivations, pain points, and wishes, something you really never get just from a survey. So after you gathered all these insights, how did you turn this data from users into insights to drive the desired digital experience?
With the customer research in hand, we were actually able to dive deeper into understanding who and how our new portal would provide the most value. First, our customer is likely a business, not an individual. And within that business, depending upon its size, there may be one person serving in multiple roles or several people serving in those same roles. As we continue to refine the personas for our customer, we look to an internal voice of customer who was our director of marketing and had a heavy hand in conducting the customer research effort and developing the journey map. We refined the policyholder journey map to help inform future product roadmap developments and also refine our understanding of the customer personas. And finally, we were able to identify the problem spaces specific to those digital interactions. Some moments of truth that specifically impacted our portal development are fair and accurate billing. There were certain issues with multiple systems sending out invoices, and with the new portal, that would allow for greater self-service for not only viewing, but also making that transaction. Another moment of truth is the user needing to have enhanced reporting and communications on claims, including exposing adjuster notes. For the producer portal, we knew the two most important processes to get right were submitting business for quote and binding. This is really just for the agents, which is a key transaction that didn't get included in the customer journey map. Our partnership with Guidewire was paramount to helping us establish a new quoting workflow that was custom to MEM. The second was claims intake, and this is for agents, customers, and unauthenticated users outside the portal. Our agents said they don't typically file as many claims as our policyholders do, but we knew the experience needed to be the same regardless. So we segmented our agency users into three primary types: an admin, a producer, and a customer service rep, or CSR. We also consulted with an internal voice of agent who was one of our senior sales executives and a former independent insurance agent herself.
Thanks for sharing. It must have been really difficult to prioritize the different user types and their needs for both the policyholder and the agent. How did you define the minimum viable scope to move forward with?
Yeah, we had to break down the insights we learned into just 5 business drivers. Those drivers were then linked to key features, and those features were ranked in terms of value. For example, we knew our customers needed greater access to information and including details on billing. Technically, this means our Billing Center 9 and Policy Center 9 core systems needed to be integrated with a portal so they could not only see the billing information, but initiate those desired transactions on the account, like paying bills. So with the users accessing greater billing detail through portal, MEM found greater value in their self-service. So this means our internal staff would surely see benefits in reduced call volume. So next, we were able to begin to move into the design phase and start to build requirements.
Great. I really like how you tied the scoping decisions back to key values, such as self-service, and had that drive your backlog. So then came the design phase. Walk us through the early solution ideas and how they evolved and how you validated them with customers.
Prototyping is a way to get customers comfortable with more raw and not totally finalized product design in order to influence the development. We started with the Guidewire out-of-the-box designs. In meetings with our SMEs and business owners and executives, we were able to pick apart design elements we knew needed to have to get certain jobs completed. But then we balanced those requirements with the requests and insights from the customer. Our second and third round of wireframes were developed with that in mind, with a customer-informed point of view. Next, we took our designs back to the customer. Specifically, we validated our two highest value workflows for the portal: submission workflow for the agent and the claims intake workflow, which is more for the customer.
How much were you actually able to incorporate in the final application?
User experience research with our agents really helped us clean up the UI. And more importantly, we were able to define what the agents viewed as fast and accurate quoting. And we were able to understand the agent's need for efficiency in that same process. Likewise, our research with customers on the claims intake helped us confirm the flow and better understand what our fast follow enhancements should be for the portal backlog. Next, we held multiple internal demos, followed up with our SMEs to communicate the customer-driven design modifications that we made with the focus group feedback. And we also consulted with our voice of agent and voice of customer to validate our next steps in the design.
It's great to see so many iterations. You also brought up an important aspect of design-led development, early sketching and wireframing to test the user experience concepts. It is so much easier to redo a mock-up than the finished code. I also know you were one of Guidewire's early adopters of Digital 11 with Jutro, Guidewire's design system and UI framework.
Yes, being an early adopter allowed us to maintain a desired speed to value for our agents. Additionally, Customer Engage hadn't come out quite yet, so we worked to solidify the design components for Producer Engage first, and when it was available, we applied very similar design principles to the customization of Customer Engage. For the implementation, submission, and claims intake workflows, we included the up-to-date Jutro components, which made late-stage design modifications a little easier. Up through this phase of the project, what worked well? Direct feedback from our agents and customers was paramount to arriving at a product ready for development, even though it took some time, effort, and analysis to get it right. Good design is always worth it. Some of the lessons that we learned: cooperation and communications between the business areas is essential. With cooperation, each area has unique relationships with our end users. For example, customer service. That can be leveraged to gain user feedback. With communications, we made a plan early, and when we made adjustments to the timeline, we went back to make sure everyone knew what to expect. And that way we were able to control the message a little better. During the development stage, we also set up solid plans for internal and external change management, usability testing, and the plans that go along with it. And we also had to retire our old legacy systems. So leading up to the deployment, we went through several rounds of internal testing, including systems integration testing with our voice of customer and voice of agent, user acceptance testing, where we actually invited our agents into our test environment to execute specific tasks. And then we had multiple sprint demos to help train our internal staff. And then we created step-by-step guides for our internal and external folks to be able to make a payment, understand how to do payroll reporting, and completing a submission for producers. Also, just basic administrative things like how to add or remove a user.
Yeah, I saw some of those guys. That must have been a lot of work. Thank you for sharing the project plan. So it's wonderful to see user acceptance testing and business process on the plan. I can just imagine how a new system opened up new ways of working, but also probably some anxiety. So then came the launch day in August, right? Tell us about what happened.
The deployment went really well. All the pre-work with the communications and training and FAQs really helped with that success. The submission numbers definitely demonstrate that the new portal is meeting and in many cases exceeding expectations. Sticking with the MVP approach, we knew we'd had suggestions and feedback after launch, and we are still incorporating those as we plan to. So here are some numbers that validate the success of Portal. First, we had greater submission count. February 2021, in fact, we had the highest percentage of portal intake yet at 78%. We have faster submission time for claims and for quotes. We also have great customer portal registration, much greater than in our previous system after just 6 months. And we have noticed a reduced customer care call volume with certain transactions.
Those are really impressive results, especially during a year where we all were challenged by the pandemic. So what's next for this project, aside from the 11.3 upgrade?
Minimum viable product, or MVP, means we knew there were going to be improvements to be made, so the customer feedback we received after launch was expected. There were only a few struggles during rollout, such as agent record migration required password reset, which was a little bit inconvenient for our users, so we made sure that was smoothed out for them. And MFA was a new and unexpected feature for the user, but a generally accepted process overall. So some of the user experience pieces that still require improvement, we're still focusing on claims from a user experience perspective and making sure that the execution is high quality. The payroll reporting process was mostly designed from an internal perspective instead of an external perspective, so we're revisiting that to make sure we get the experience right for our users. This is a much better product than what we had before by leaps and bounds. It moves MEM ahead and sets us up for future growth and technology improvements for our customers.
Kate, thank you so much for walking us through the MEM digital implementation project. I loved seeing all the key tenets of a design-led approach in action, and the business outcomes and user feedback is truly impressive. I look forward to our continued collaboration.